Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of 2D Prototyping in Unity. My name is Kasanas. In the last episode we did a little bit of sound stuff. That I had left out previously, and that is cool. Hopefully you guys have lots of sound and lots of awesome stuff in your game. Lots of particles and, awesome stuff. What we're going to take a look at today is creating a turret of some sort, an enemy turret, and it's going to, again, have some very simplistic AI. Basically, the same thing we did before, where if you are within a certain distance, it's going to shoot at you. All right? And that's basically how we want this to work. This interesting thing about this is that it's going to allow us to explore some other methods of animation as well, and building a creature. All right? So let's get started. Okay, so building this new creature is there's a lot of things that we haven't done yet. There's a lot of things that we haven't explored yet, and I kind of want to do so with this new creature. It's going to be a really simple creature, and we're going to divide this up into a number of episodes. I think we might divide it up into 3. We'll see how long it takes me to do everything. We're going to build the creature, and we're going to add animation to it in a new method, and we're going to write code that is going to shoot off some kind of like spore, as I'm calling it, a spore, that can damage our player. Alright, so to start off with, if you're following along with me and using the same thing as I am, go to your sprites and look for this thing that I have labeled cannon plant. Now, excuse me, the cannon plant, there's multiple objects within this one file. The same way there was with our Explorer over here. But in this case here, instead of it being an animation sprite sheet, this one here is strictly a number of different objects located within the same image. We still want to do the same thing though. We want to select it. We want to go from, well, watch what happens if I drag it on here, boom, we don't want it to look like that, obviously, right? What we want to do is we want to go to our sprite mode and make sure it's multiple. We want to go to our sprite editor and we want to divide it up somehow. We want to say slice, we want to say trim automatic slice, boom, and it's going to automatically slice up our object into the individual parts. So I've got this middle part and the leaves. All right, let's get rid of this for now and apply it. Great. When I did so, you can see, just like with this guy here, we have got a number of different objects now created from that single object, that single sheet. Awesome. So this is how we're going to build this character. Rather than have it built already in Photoshop or wherever else we want to build it, I want to be able to animate these individual parts. So to do so, I'm going to build this object here in Unity out of these individual parts. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an empty object, and I'm going to create it at let's create it at 0, 0, 0. Actually, that's where I should be doing it. 0, 0, 0. Return, and let's add to this right away a base. Boom. Oh, come on! Why are you not working today? Okay, there it is right there. There's our game object right there. Let's call this thing here the cannon plant. All right, cannon plant. That's our cannon plant, and that's going to be the base of it. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to drag each of these individual parts into this cannon plant. All right, I'm going to grab the cannon plant middle, and I'm going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it in cannon plant. Boom, right there. And I'm going to rename it. I'm going to rename it right away to cannon. Excuse me. Something stuck in my throat today. And I'm going to move it up a bit. I'm going to move this individual object up to right about there. You know what? Let's actually move this thing here so we can see it. Let's put it over here. Right there. All right. So let's now drag each of our individual objects in. My cannon. The first thing I want to do, select my cannon, select the cannon itself, and my sorting layer is currently set to default. I've already built this, but what you could do is you could have said add sorting layer, bam, add the plus sign, take the plus sign, and actually add in a new sorting layer. All right, this is going to allow us to sort this individual object separate from our default layer that everything else is on. All right, so say plus, bam, and add the new layer. Minus, because I don't want it right now. All right, so do that. Add a cannon plant layer. That's what I've done. I'm going to actually add my cannon to the cannon plant layer. And I'm going to leave it on 0, whatever, it's going to be the middle. That's fine. It's on 0. All right, I'm going to grab each of these individual objects. Let's say this leaf. I'm going to drag it and drop it on my plant. And of course, it's showing up over here. So I'm going to drag it and drop it over here, because it didn't show up in the right spot. Where is it? Where is my plant? Oh, it's right there. Good. I'm going to drag it and drop it right there. And I'm going to put it maybe like that. That seems to be fine. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, though. Let's make it 1.5 and 1.5. You guys can decide how you want it to look. That might be too big. Let's make it 1.25. 25. You guys can decide how you want it to look. Right now, like I said, I'm just building this new character out. All right, 1.25, awesome. I'm going to put it on the cannon plant layer, and I'm going to put it at -1, so it's a little bit farther away. And I'm going to rename this to back. This is my left leaf. All right. Same thing with this one here. Boom, drop it right there. Make sure that it is in here. Boop. I'm going to make it 1.25 and 1.25. Bam, 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 just like that. I'm going to put it where I like it, and I'm going to rotate it the way I like it. I'm just making this pretty. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm building this guy up, making it look the way I want it to. Like this. And I want to make sure that the layer it's on is exactly as the other one, -1. Excuse me. Lastly, we're going to drag and we're going to drop these guys on. I'm going to rename everything, obviously. Let's find it. Put it right here. And let's put it in the proper thing. Make it on the first layer. Let's make this bigger because it's way too small. 1.5 maybe. And 1.5 looks good. Adjust it a wee bit like that, maybe. That's fine. This is the front left leaf. This one was the back right leaf. The last one, drag, drop. Make sure it's in our proper location. In my cannon plant, it is going to be called the front right leaf. Front right leaf, proper layer, put it at 1, so it's ahead, and let's make it a little bit bigger as well. 1.5 and 1.5. All right, that might be too big. That looks a little too big to me. Let's make it 1.25. 2 and 2. All right, so let's say this is how we want our plant to look. You guys can kind of decide how yours is going to look, but this is kind of what I want it to look like. All right, it's all located within this envelope of the cannon plant. Doing it like this is going to allow me to animate each individual part. I'm going to be able to animate each individual leaf and each individual thing to make it idle or an attack or anything else I want. All right, so the next thing I want to do is make sure that this object is working exactly the same as my other enemies are. This cannon plant right here, the envelope of the entire thing, is going to allow me to place it in the scene where I'd like it to be. That's awesome. The next thing I want to make sure is, well, I want to make sure, first of all, that, and I'm not going to worry about this too much right now. I want to make sure that there's a collider around this guy here, around this cannon plant, that's going to identify where we can shoot from. All right, and I'll do that a little bit later on. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my cannon, the cannon itself, and I'm going to use this as the base of our actual plant. This is the thing that you're going to shoot. This is the thing that can be damaged, all right? So knowing that, we're going to have to do a couple of things. We're going to have to add a component, and we're going to have to add a physics 2D component. Now, first of all, we're going to need a circle collider. This circle collider is the area that we can shoot. It's going to be shootable. It's going to go in our shootable layer. Boom. So our character can actually shoot this object. All right? And that's the only one we really need. We don't actually need, we could add the secondary collider if we wanted to. That was a non-trigger, because this one is a trigger. And we will. So I'm going to add it right here. We have a couple of different options. I can't remember exactly how I did it with this boar, but I think we added the collider as a separate, I think we added it as a separate thing. Did I add 2 box colliders in here, 2 colliders? No, I didn't. In here, did I? I did. Okay, so I'm going to do it the same way. In the cannon itself, I'm going to add a secondary collider. Boom. It is going to be a physics 2D, and it's going to be our circle collider. It's going to be much smaller. Let's make this one here, I don't know, 0.5. And this is the area that actually blocks the character to prevent it from moving through. So let's move this down to right there. So that's going to prevent our character from walking through. It is a non-trigger. We are going to give it a physics material like we did before, and it's going to be slippery. So our character will slip on it if he jumps on top. All right, so far, super awesome. Okay, now, if I had wanted to, what I could have done, well, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, both of these are shootable. This one here is the area that the character is going to be affected when he walks in, and this one is going to prevent our character from moving directly through. Now, we know that we need a number of other things. First of all, we need to add our component. We need to add our script, our existing script. We need to add our enemy damage. The enemy damage itself is going to be up to you. If you want the character to take damage in the plant, fine. If you don't, then that's fine too. You can leave your damage rate to 0, and you can leave your damage to 0. We still want actually, we want to give it a damage rate too of, let's say, I don't know, 0.5. All right. The reason why I want to give it a damage rate, even though my damage is 0, is because we're having our pushback still. Let's give it a pushback of 15. So when the character jumps on this plant, he's still going to be rocketed off, all right? And that'll happen every half second. No damage will be applied. You can change that. You can say, oh, I want this plant to be, carnivorous and it eats the player and do 1 damage, or whatever you want. You guys can adjust this the way you want to. For my gameplay, what I ultimately did is I said damage was equal to 0. All right? The next thing we're going to add is another component. We're going to add our script. And we're going to add our enemy health. Now, if you want this thing here to be shootable and you want it to be an enemy, then make it into an enemy. So tag it. If you don't want it to be destroyed, then that's perfectly fine too. The first thing, the maximum health, I don't care. Let's give it 30. So you have to shoot it 3 times. The enemy death effects and our prefab, I think we're going to use just our player death effects for now. You can change that up if you want to. If you really wanted to, you could use a plant one for puffed out leaves or whatever. The enemy death sound, I'm going to make it the same because I'm super lazy and don't feel like making up any other ones. This one is not going to drop anything. All right, so I'm going to leave the drops out. If you wanted to make it drop something, then you click, boom, and you would drag in the heart that we've created. All right. In my case, I'm going to say this plant doesn't drop anything. Actually, you know what? I'll make it drop something. I'll make it drop the hearts, whatever. I think I ultimately did that in the other game anyway, so bam, bam, and bam. All right, so it's going to drop the health pickup just like the other one did. If you wanted to, this could be something different, like an ammo pickup or anything else. All right, lastly, enemy slider, which means we do need, on this object, we need our enemy health right here. Our enemy health. Drop it on the actual cannon plant. Let's find our canvas. Boom, boom, boom. There's our canvas. Here's our health slider. We're going to drag it, and we're going to drop it. Oops, I'm not on the right thing right now. Let's drop this over there for now. Let's go back to our cannon, and we're going to drag and drop this into our enemy health slider. So our character is going to have a slider associated with it, and I'm going to move it up so it's in the proper location. Let's say right about there. All right, so right now, this thing here should operate in exactly the same way that our other one did. Let's save it. File, save. This should operate exactly the same way as our other characters. Let's see. Play. Jump over, boom. There we go. So we're doing 0 damage, but he is being tossed up. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller on our cannon. It works exactly the same. I'm going to make this thing here a little bit smaller. The trigger. Let's make this so he goes a little ways in. Let's make this one here 0.8. 0.8. So he'll go a little ways into our cannon itself. And let's move it down a little bit. Come on. All right, like that. Okay, so now it's going to work exactly the same way as our other guy did. He's going to be able to jump on this and be shot out. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Perfect. That's exactly how we want it to work. All right. Now let's take a look at the new animation technique. So this animation technique is what I was really excited to show you in this episode. It allows us to have animation done completely within Unity itself. If you don't have your animation tab, say Window and then find Animation, boom, and open it up. I have moved mine. It was usually up here. I moved it down here so we're going to be able to see everything happening at the same time. Just take it and drag it and drop it. All right. So what I want to take a look at here is I want to take a look at this cannon. And let's go back to our scene for a minute. I want to add animation to each of these individual objects, to the leaves, to the cannon, and everything else. All right, I'm going to set up an idle for the leaves, an idle for the cannon, and a shooting motion for the cannon itself. All right, so here's what I want to do. Let's go on to the leaf, actually, first of all. That's enemy health canvas. Let's go to the back leaf. What I want to do is I actually want to add a little tiny bit of animation to this. And you can see that right now there's nothing on this back leaf, just the transform and the sprite render. But watch what happens when I say add property. I'm going to add an animation. I'm going to call this back. What was this? Back left leaf idle. Back left leaf idle. Okay, and when I do so, this thing turns red. We automatically get our animator up here. Bonus, great. And I want to add in the property is my transform, and it's just going to be just rotation, I think, so plus. And all I want to do is I'm going to set up an idle. Let's make it a 4-second long idle, so it doesn't look too rushed. And maybe that's even too rushed. But we'll see. Let's say at, I don't know, somewhere in here. It doesn't really matter where you choose it. I'm going to add a little bit of rotation. Just a little bit. And I'm going to come up along here somewhere, and I'm going to add a little bit of rotation the other way. All right. Boom, boom, boom. See, there we go. There's my animation. All right. A little bit of a wiggle there. That's all there is to it. I'm going to do the same thing for each and every one of these leaves. All right. If I take a look now with this leaf still selected though, and I go to my animator, there we go. In my animator itself, I've got this motion. If I hit play, let's go back to play for a minute. Let me mute this so we don't have to hear the sound. If I say play, we go over and we take a look at the leaf itself. That leaf is now moving just slightly. Yeah, that doesn't look awesome. Go through, I'm going to adjust it. I'm going to do that for each and every one of these leaves. All right? I will be right back. Okay, guys, I went through and I added animation to each of the leaves in the cannon. The cannon I didn't really do anything with. All I did is I set up something that was the idle. So if I take a look at the animator itself, my cannon idle is there, but it doesn't really do anything. I didn't bother to create any kind of animation on it. I wasn't really sure what I wanted on that cannon for now, if I actually wanted it to move or not. I'm thinking I want it to be stationary so the player can actually shoot it. Cannon set up there with nothing on it, but each of the leaves, let's just hit play for a second here so you can see it. It's not awesome. It's not pretty. I did it really, really fast. I'm trying to make these videos, and I'm just doing everything as fast as I can. Take your time, guys. Make it look good, all right? Don't make it look crappy like this. Make your stuff look good. Anyway, there everything's moving. Awesome. Each of these objects now, if we take a look at cannon, for example, each of these objects has on it an animator. Each of the leaves have an animator. Everything's got an animator and everything on it. Everything is great, and that's what we want to happen. Now, with the cannon, I want to do something else. I want the cannon to have an additional animation. To add an additional animation, so not just the idle, I'm selecting my cannon, and I'm going to, here where it's listed cannon idle, I'm going to click on the little arrows and I'm going to say create a new clip. And I'm going to call this here, I don't know, cannon shoot. It doesn't really matter what you call it. Just remember what it is. All right, and cannon shoot is going to be the animation that occurs when my actual cannon shoots its spores out. So, same way, so you guys see it one more time, add property. I'm going to add this time for sure the scale. And this is going to be a very, very quick animation, actually. It's going to start off at 0. It's going to move down relatively quickly, so I want to kind of scale downwards. I want to scale in the X. I want to scale, I want to get fatter. And I want the Y to move down. All right? And I'm doing that to make sure that this thing here is going to, it looks like it's going to spit something out. All right? And then I want it to go very quickly. Maybe this far. I want to go very quickly into a skinny X, so something below 0, and a bigger Y. All right, maybe that's too skinny, so I don't want to lose too much volume. There we go, and a little bit bigger Y, let's say. All right, and let's say that is my shooting motion, so it goes blip. I want to move this over, actually. I want to move it. It's going to happen really quick, so it's going to go blip. All right, it's going to come down, and then right about here, it's going to spring back downwards. So it's going to get fatter again in the X, and it's going to go down in the Y a little bit. like that, and then come back to normal. All right, so blep. That's what I want to do. Blep. All right, so that now, when I finish this, when I turn off my animation, bam, and you could adjust this so that this thing kind of stayed in place. It's up to you guys to move it how you want it to move. I'm just doing this really fast for demonstration purposes. This might even be too short. I might want to make it a little faster even. Animator, take a look at it right here. Can and shoot is there now. Great. What I want to do, oops, I'm still recording. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to do it either. Okay. So that turned it off. Can and shoot now. I want to go from idle to can and shoot. That's what I want to happen. I want that to happen whenever my player is going to walk into a certain zone. I want this thing to start shooting out its spores. All right. So once again, we're going to go from idle. We're going to make transition to shoot. Boom. It's going to happen at a certain time. What I want to do is I want to come over here into parameters, and I want to add additional parameter. I'm going to add a trigger this time, and trigger is basically, it's like a Boolean, except for as soon as you trigger it once, it goes and it comes back. Like it goes to true and goes false right away. All right, and I'm going to call this thing here can shoot. It doesn't matter what you call it. Can and shoot. All right, so whenever can and shoot is true, let's go down here and add it. Whenever can and shoot. Oh, whenever can and shoot, that's it, whenever can and shoot, because it doesn't go to true and false, it just goes true for a second. So whenever can and shoot, it's going to go up into here, and then I want it to transition from here, make transition back to the idle, all right? And I want this one here to have an exit time, all right? And the exit time can be any length of time that I want. And I actually kind of want it to be a little bit longer. I want it to be the entire length of can and shoot, all right? So that is my exit time, and let's take a look what this thing's going to look. We'll get to that later on. That, guys, is what I wanted to show you as far as our animation is concerned. Our animation is now set up. We can't actually trigger it in any way yet. We have to trigger it through code later on. And we're going to trigger it through code later on using something that we're going to add right now to Canon Plant. Let's go back to our scene. What we basically want to do is set up, add component, set up in here 2D physics. Let's make it a box collider, and let's make it pretty large. Let's make it x is equal to 13, and y is equal to, I don't know, 10. And that's too big. Let's make it y is equal to 5. And let's move this up in the y, so it kind of takes place at the bottom of this plant. So, as long as the player is going to be in here, it's a trigger. As long as our player is somewhere within this trigger, we're going to actually be wanting to shoot out our individual stuff, as long as they're staying within here. Okay? So that is the concept behind how this thing is going to work. Okay? So far, so good, everyone. I think I'm going to make some adjustments to this. This looks fine. Everything looks fine here. We'll make some adjustments to it later on. You guys make sure yours looks pretty. All right, now what I want to do is create the actual spore that is going to be shot out of this object. Okay, guys, now let's create the actual projectile, the spore that's coming out of this thing here. I've got something available in sprites. I'm going to drag it and drop it on here. That is far, far, far too big. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, just reset it for now. Reset, so we're at 0 and working from 0. I don't want to be this large, to be honest. Let's make it 0.5. That seems reasonable. All right, 0.5. So basically, it's just another one of these kind of spiky things. So maybe these spiky rocks are shot from a giant plant. Who knows what we're doing? And this is going to be our spore. Where is it? Down here. There's a number of things that we're going to have to add to the spore. The first thing we know we're going to have to add is, because it's going to be a physics object, we're going to shoot this thing off. And basically what I want it to do is shoot out based on forces, and then fall to the ground and roll or whatever. And if it touches the character, it hurts him. All right, so we're going to know we have to add a couple of things here. We know we have to add, first of all, a physics 2D rigid body 2D. All right, with a rigid body in place, this thing here is going to be allowed to be affected by gravity. Awesome. We also know that we have to add into it a physics 2D circle collider, or any kind of collider you want. And the first circle collider add is going to be a trigger. So this is the danger area for our character. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's make it 1.5. That is the danger area for our character. If our character comes within that area, he's going to take damage. And lastly, I'm going to add another component, a physics component 2D. Again, a circle collider, and we're going to make this one much smaller. Let's make it 0.5. 0.5, and this then is going to, first of all, allow us to collide with other colliders. It's not a trigger. And we're going to set this up to be, boop, slippery. So that's basically our surface area. Our character can collide with it. He has to jump over it, etc. All right. So that is all I really need to do as far as the physics is concerned. Now we want to add some of our components we already have existing. A script, our destroy me script. I think what I want to happen is I want these things to go away after a certain amount of time. So let's give it a total time of 5 seconds. And for good measure, because we definitely want this thing to harm our player, we're going to add our add component, our script, and we are going to add our enemy damage script. I'm going to set this thing up so it's shootable. But that it's not, it's going to be like one of the stones. So it's going to be shootable. It's like one of these things here we created. It's shootable, but it's not actually going to be destroyed. All right, so I'm not going to add the enemy health script because we can't actually destroy it. All right, so add damage. The damage amount is going to be, let's make it 1, the same as one of these big guys. The damage rate is going to be every half second, and the pushback force is going to be smaller because it's tiny, so let's just make it 10. You guys can choose your own numbers in there if you want to. And that is basically, I think, all we need to do for our spore, except for the fact that we're going to have some kind of spore controller, which means that there's going to be forces applied to this thing here to begin with. And, you know, should I add it right now in this thing? No, you know what? We'll add it later on. We'll add all the coding into one. Alright guys, so with that being done with the spore itself, I'm going to drag it and drop it into my prefab. It's not completely done, obviously. I have to add some things into it. And I can delete this one. Delete, goodbye spore. Alright, so I think that's all we need to do for the creation episode. We created our animation on here, and we created our spore, we created our guy. And now in the next episode, guys, I would like to take a look at code. I'm dividing it up to make sure you can watch one then the other and not have to watch everything all the way through. And I'm pretty sure this is a pretty long episode already. So I'm going to cut it off right there. And in the next episode, like I said, we'll do all the code that's going to control everything from start to finish. All right, everybody? I hope you enjoyed that episode. I hope you are adding in yourself a little turret of some kind. You've got yourself a character plan that's going to be kind of like this guy here. At least using the same concepts and the same techniques. All right, it doesn't have to look the same as mine. Make your own game, guys. Make your own game. Make something that's going to be fun to play and fun to look at. All right. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know with a thumbs up. If you didn't, a thumbs down is perfectly fine. Let me know why you gave me the thumbs up down in the comments, though. That way I can make changes. These episodes are for you. They're not for me at all. I know how to do this stuff, but I'm hoping you guys are learning from it as well. Anything you want to ask down below. I'd love to hear from you. I love to just say hi if you want to. Say, hey, I'm here. That's also cool. Let me know you're watching, because right now I'm not sure if anyone's even watching. All right, guys. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments down below. And if you haven't done so, please take a few seconds to subscribe. Have yourselves a wonderful day, everyone.